How to Win the Lottery Season 5 intro episode. This is wild, Tulsa. You're Tulsa. Are you still Tulsa? Or now that we're not in the state anymore, what's your name?
It's Tulsa. I can't believe it. This is so offensive to me. Get your shit together. Be professional for once in your fucking life. Don't even know my name.
We have not officially finished releasing the internet season. We did an entire season in between, and now we're doing another season.
Yeah.
The world is apathetic to what we do at large.
I assume that one of us is going to die soon. So we gotta get ahead of the game so that we have stuff to release post.
Because as soon as one of us dies, I have everything scheduled. So even if I die, it's still going to go out to the world.
Yeah. It would be better if I died. For the podcast, it would be better if I died than if you died.
You think?
Yeah.
I do think that if one of us died, it would boost numbers at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could be like, oh my God, please listen to this podcast. My friend Tulsa was on. He died.
Well, you'd bring in
a notorious reader. Bleep.
You'd bring him in.
If you were to die, I guess I have to do with Egg.
Yeah, like remotely. She'd call in.
Somerville to Somerville, baby.
No, she would just email in. And you would just it wouldn't be a conversation.
I would Bill Burr it and then just read her email.
You would say your part and then, all right, let's make it happen. Let's make me die happen.
You die. Step 2, everything else keeps going.
I'm working on it.
Okay, so here's the reality. You have planned 52 state modules.
In
a file I don't have access to.
Oh, I didn't email. Oh, that's right, because it has to remain anonymous to you. Yeah.
You should put it somewhere for Jerry. Just say, in case of emergency.
Okay, Jerry does not know how to use a computer.
No, I'm saying actually print out a piece of paper in an envelope.
Okay. In case of emergency, put this in a mailbox.
Yeah. I'll give you a stamp.
I'll give it to I have a will. Why don't I put it with my will? Do you know how much it costs? A lot of money to adjust a will. You can't just go in there and change it whenever you feel like it. You have to pay $500.
If you need to adjust your will for a real reason, please also add this in there.
Yeah, here. Well, I would like this envelope to be.
That'd be really funny if again, framing it within the context of you dying.
Yeah, it is funny.
But at your will reading, your brother is there, Kristen's there.
My brother will not be at my will reading.
He might be there.
No, he won't. It's not even going to know that I die.
But all these people who get actual things. I know everything goes to Kristen, but
but don't take. What are we doing? Don't. Shut up. Shut up.
It would be funny if. So okay, let me take a step back. Your brother's there, Kristen's there. Everybody's getting real things. It's just here's a list of books.
Yeah.
For this idiot.
Yeah.
For the podcast.
Yeah. I don't know that will readings are an actual thing. Are they? They probably are.
Have you seen Knives Out? Can you request in your will to have a will reading?
You probably can, yeah.
You should do that. That's worth $500.
Yeah.
We finished New Orleans, Louisiana, the Suck Shit Sufjan Stevens module, number 1 of 52 down.
Yep, number 1
we
of 52
shredded up that
down.
Card. We're going to do another one after
it's actually
this
number
season.
1 of 54.
There's only 50 states. Oh, the Jokers.
Yeah, it's 2 Jokers.
Forgot about those.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Mm-hmm. But now,
I should have let you do the Jokers.
I think we talked about that, and I was like, I don't want that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were like, good, because you have bad taste in books.
Yeah, because you would have picked Dean Koontz. It would have just been we're reading Intensity 3 times. That's the only Dean Koontz book I know.
I keep buying his books and not reading them, but they're cheap on Amazon.
Yeah, you're part of the problem.
Didn't buy Spare though.
What's that?
The Harry memoir.
Oh, and Prince Harry. Yeah, good. Who cares, man?
Because they always talked about how he had an heir and a spare, and so he was spare.
That's so stupid. God, fuck that guy. People still like him though, right?
People love this memoir too.
Yeah, get out of here. Where he's like, I murdered 40 Afghans with my bare hands.
Who Weekly did a 90-minute Patreon episode about this, and they talked a lot about it, and it just seems like there's insane stuff in this book.
Yeah, I think he's a liar.
Maybe. Anyway, 1 of 54 down. After this season, we will do another one, but we have a 12-book module now. And this is, 12? I think, the first time ever in the illustrious 2 or 3 year history of this podcast where I actually came up kind of with the idea for the theme and also some of the books.
We'll see how it goes.
It's going to go poorly. It's going to be fine. Tulsa, what is the theme for season 5?
The theme is adaptable books that have been adapted into
That are coming out this year.
into films, and books that I believe are unadaptable and will never be made into.
So
There is one on this unadaptable that is like pretty adaptable though. So it's just a book that you really wanted to read.
Number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2.
I will also say, if that sounds like 6 books that are easy, fun reads and 6 books that are going to kill us, it might be.
It is kind of like that.
Well, I think it's something like when there's something that is compelling and propulsive and that has a clear narrative that like is engaging, people are like, let's make this into a thing.
Yeah.
And people like look at a book, they're like, I don't even know where to begin. It's like, yeah, that's never like, that's basically to a certain extent what this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think my idea for this was we always would do the casting game. And I think it's always cool. It was always cool to me when we're like, oh, I picture this because like we just talked about Confederacy of Dunces. They have like all these different like past casts that never happened. But like it's easier for me as a dumb person to picture John Belushi as Ignatius.
Than to put a thing in your head.
Yes. Then to like have to figure out who this person is.
Have you seen that test online? It's like, I forget what the thing's called. It's called like aphantasia or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's an ability to picture things in your head. And it's a sliding scale of apples. And like one of them, I think it's like 5 different things. And like the number 1 is like a perfect realistic apple. Number 2 is a cartoon apple. Number 3 is like a black and white apple. Mm-hmm. Number 4 is just the outline of an apple. And number 5 is nothing at all.
Okay.
And so like, are you able to picture a perfectly realistic apple in your head?
So
you are. Okay.
Here's something that like I was very frustrated by growing up, which is related to this, but not to this at all, is that I can picture very hyper visual, like really, really realistic things in my brain.
Yeah.
And I would get so frustrated that I have no artistic talent. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, I can pick like and I don't know why this was the case, but growing up, I'm like, I can picture like a volcano, like really specific, like with lava and like the rocks and everything. And when I would try to like take that to like either pen and paper or whatever, it wouldn't look good. So like, and I would get frustrated by like just lack of artistic ability, but I can see the thing.
Were you aware that there are like a lot of people that just can't?
No.
Yeah. There's like
can you?
Yeah. Very, very like detailed, specific.
I think my issue is that I just don't read enough. And like, I know that I'm reading a lot for this, and I know that I'm reading more than most people because of this podcast alone, but I just don't think that I read enough to mentally do the work.
To manifest visual. And also a lot of books let you do that work on your own. They don't fill in all the blanks so that you have to like, it won't tell you exactly how a person looks.
Yeah. I also think that like when I'm reading a thing, like I sort of put myself as like the main character until like I'm told otherwise. And like that doesn't necessarily help me visualize.
Do you picture yourself as Ignatius Riley?
Yeah. Well, no, because like very early on, she's like, big fat guy, green hat. And she's like, okay, that's not me. I don't have a green hat.
He'd never wear a green hat.
Same joke. Perfect. All right. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if I really came up with it. There's one book for what, I mean, aside from the one that you mentioned before, there's one book in the season that I kind of fought for, and I don't even know why I wanted to fight for it, but like these are again,
you fought for it.
It's largely ones that you picked, and again, sort of in line with the thing. But
I would say that you picked the movie ones, and I picked the ones that aren't. We had conversations about the movie ones, and there are some that I vetoed.
And I think a lot of the ones I picked were based on director or actor, but this first one was one that you picked.
Yeah.
But we're alternating between upcoming adaptation, at least in theory, and unadaptable. So it's going to go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 through 12. So the first one is Zone of Interest by Martin Amis. Amis. This is one that is Jonathan Glazer is directing that seems like it's maybe done, but also because
it's in post-production.
Because he's a very sort of mercurial director, who knows? But the guy who did Under the Skin.
Yeah, but if anything, I wanted to read this one. This was the one that I really leaned into for the adaptations because Jonathan Glazer has adapted now. Oh, maybe just Under the Skin, but his adaptation of Under the Skin is a real like
weird.
departure from the book as well, and abstract, and sort of embraces difficult themes without being overly explanatory about it. He's a director that really trusts his audience. And Zone of Interest is a Martin Amis book. Martin Amis is the son of Kingsley Amis, who is a really important writer of quote unquote. He was part of the angry young men school of British writers, including people like Philip Larkin. And
What era is this? Like the 50s?
Yeah, 50s, 60s.
Okay.
He was a really, really funny writer. Martin Amis has sort of, some of his novels were sort of comedy of manners. He's got a really great novel called Dead Babies that is like it's like a horror novel kind of like a group of people going on a weekend getaway together. And there's a person like torturing them. But
sounds good.
But he's got major themes. His major themes that he's dealt with throughout his career are sex is one, but we'll put that aside for now. But the other two are the Holocaust,
which is this one,
and nuclear war. I don't know how many novels he's written about. I've read most of Martin Amis's books. But
well, like years ago, you told me to read like 3 or 4 years ago, like before the podcast.
Time's Arrow.
Time's Arrow and Zone of Interest were the two that you like. I bought in like 2019 or something. Mm-hmm. But these have been like on my radar-ish for a while because of you.
Yeah, Time's Arrow is a Holocaust novel. But
is this one also Holocaust or no?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it is. And so I'm interested in Jonathan Glazer as someone who can tackle that. I think we might be, I don't want to say out of room for Holocaust movies, the same way that we're out of room for slavery movies, because I think we need to start envisioning the Jewish narrative as one that's larger than this one specific tragedy. Right. But I'm interested in what Jonathan Glazer is going to do with that style of story. I haven't read Zone of Interest yet. That's one of the few Martin Amis books that I haven't read. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I thought you had read all these. Okay, that's okay.
But I really, I wanted to read this one. I've had it for a while. I've had it since it came out. I bought it in hardback because I'm a Martin Amis fan.
When did this come out? Like a while ago or recently?
No, not that long ago. Maybe 2015, 2016.
Oh, okay. So is he still alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
He just had a book come out recently. I forget the name of it. It might be
2014.
It might be even called something as simple as My Life.
Oh, okay.
Which is a nonfiction. No, it is. It's a fictional autobiography about like his life and his interactions with he has a crew of people that he's really close to, which are like Christopher Hitchens and Salman Rushdie.
Okay.
And so I think it's like his experiences among them fictionalized.
There's a thing called Inside Story. Is it that?
That might be it. Yeah, I think
that came out in 2020. Autobiographical novel by Martin Amis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's listed under novels. It's not listed under nonfiction.
Right.
Which is, interesting.
Yeah. So he also had a really great novel earlier called The Pregnant Widow. Anyway, yeah, Martin Amis. He's great.
Cool.
I would recommend him to any on a sentence by sentence level. He might be one of my favorite authors.
Wow. Okay. Going from one of your favorite authors to another one of your favorite authors. This is the one that I was just like, I want to read this book.
Yeah.
Like there are a handful of books and just like build a module around this. And this is one of them. Mm-hmm. There's actually 2 of those in this season.
And that is Underworld by Don DeLillo.
Big ass book.
A big book about a lot of things, about trash, about terrorism, about baseball. DeLillo, I think he's got his themes. He's got language, violence, and I guess sports are part of one of those things. But sports sort of blends into that idea of violence. But it's like a big novel trying to encapsulate this idea of America in total. And one thing that might make it unadaptable is just the scope of what it's trying to do. And there's no one really better at that than Don DeLillo, to be honest.
And this is a return to the pod for Don DeLillo because we did End Zone, which might be my favorite book in the campus module, which is very exciting. I definitely didn't mention this because this is a non-story, but I remember a friend of mine in college was reading this and he was just like carrying this big book around for like a month.
I mean, Matt's been reading it for like 2 years or something, right?
Yeah, well, Matt's also been reading my Walking Dead compendium for like 5 years and he just recently found that, right? So I don't know.
But for baseball lovers, you can just read
the first 100 pages or something.
Yeah, the first 100 pages, Pafko at the Wall, which is the story of Bobby Thompson shot heard around the world.
Yeah. But that's one I'm just like, if this book is this big and this, compelling enough to, although on the cover, I think is the Twin Towers, right? And this came out in the 90s.
Is it the Twin Towers? It might be the Twin Towers.
Maybe.
I think it depends on the edition that you have.
I have a Kindle and I also have the real one. But I was just like, if this is good enough that my friend's going to be carrying this around for like a month, like I want to read this book. He's like, this is like the best thing I've ever read. And that was 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So. Number 3, after Underworld, we're back to the adaptation and also another returning favorite to the pod, Otessa Moshfegh's Eileen.
Yeah. A book that she notoriously used a how to write a hit novel like how-to guide,
and it worked
in order to compose.
This is her first novel, right?
Well, Maglue came before it, but Maglue is a novella.
Okay.
So this is like her first, like, I don't know, maybe her first like mainstream novel. Her first.
And you read Underworld. You read this.
I've read Underworld. I've read this. I taught this at a college level. It's a pretty intense book. It's a really grimy book.
Okay.
It's a book that will make you feel fairly gross.
She's good at that.
At different points. It's
same thing with Maglue.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's being made into a movie with, I want to say, Anne Hathaway.
So it's directed by William Oldroyd, who did Lady Macbeth, which is where I first found Florence Pugh. Thomas and Mackenzie, Shea Wiggum from The Fast and Furious. Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, Anne Hathaway's interesting casting in this role. I would probably have gone with someone like Jessica Chastain or something like that. But Anne Hathaway is interesting. I'd like to see her sort of flex her muscles in this direction.
Thomas and Mackenzie is great, though. I don't know if you know her by name.
Yeah, she's in Last Night in Soho.
Yep, and Jojo Rabbit and Leave No Trace and Old. And what was the thing I knew her from? What was she in first? Or did she? I don't know, whatever. I guess I saw her in Jojo Rabbit first, probably. She's also Leave No Trace. Did I say that? It's a great movie.
That is a great movie. I'm not really a Thomas Mackenzie fan, but
well,
we'll see.
Picture someone else then. All right, what's our second unadaptable?
Speedboat by Renata Adler.
Your vowel sounds got really weird there.
Renata
Adler.
I've been teaching a hammock pentameter, so like a lot of like my vowel, like when I do the vowels, I'm like thumping out a heartbeat on my chest. So Renata Adler.
Have you read this one?
It's weird. Yeah, I have.
What makes this unadaptable? Without because I don't want to go into like too much of what it's about. Because I want to go into sort of blind. But like, what makes this different? Because this is a short book.
Yeah, I want to say the thing that makes it unadaptable is sort of a lack of connectivity.
Okay,
a sort of
interesting
sentence by sentence journey in a book that sort of thematically forms a large picture, but is hard to string together into a story.
The way you describe that reminds me of Amelia Gray's Threats, but I also feel like that's much more easily adaptable.
Yeah, this is not. This is
okay.
a lot more work than that book is.
Based on the description, though, I'm excited for this. I
think some of it is really funny. It's a tough book. She's a great critic. She's a really interesting novelist. I think she only has two novels. Speedboat and I forget what the name of the other one is, but I've read both of them.
Not gonna look it up. Not allowed to. Next,
something about the dark.
Sure. Next up is a cold case crime, right? Is that
hard case crime?
Hard case crime. Memory by Donald Westlake, soon to become a movie starring Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, the hard case crime books are. I think how that series started was a bunch of pulp books had gone out of print, and some guy or group of people started buying up the rights to these books and republishing them with original new like painting covers, but the paintings are all in the like style of old pulp novels. And then it was very popular, and then they started drawing a lot of attention.
Like Stephen King did one of these.
Yeah, Stephen King did, I think, 2 or 3 of them at this point. So they have, authors are writing new novels for them, and they have old novels coming in and finishing, old novelists coming in and finishing old works that were
That's really cool.
Unpublished. It's good. Donald Westlake is one of those classic crime novelists that is like really important to the genre. So yeah, that should be a fun one. If nothing else,
that's also wildly different from what we've read so far in the podcast.
Yeah, it pairs a little bit. I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't know how exactly it pairs. But Eileen is sort of a crime novel, as well. So it'll pair with that maybe a little bit.
Cool. Next up on Unadaptable.
is Blood and Guts in High School by Cathy Acker.
Is this one you read?
Yes. I love Cathy Acker. Cathy Acker is, again...
Did she get her name from the cartoon? Kathy?
No.
Ack?
No. Although there is a...
But Kathy says Ack, right? Is it Kathy?
It is Kathy.
And she says Ack.
Yeah, there is a...
I felt crazy for a second.
There used to be a Tumblr that would take Cathy cartoons and put Cathy Acker dialogue into the...
That's good.
Into the things, especially when you consider the nature of Cathy Acker's writing, which is, to use a term that B.R. Yeager is not a fan of, transgressive fiction that deals a lot with the body, violent aspects of sexuality, and the sort of difficult relationships between interpersonal relationships and interfamilial relationships and the like sort of horrific violences that happen within those. So it's like
heavy.
It's a real like trigger warning type book.
I will lighten the mood by reminding everyone of the Cathy comic that we wrote in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Where Kathy's in front of a bunch of cookies and she says, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 2 weeks since my last confection."
I think it's like 2 hours since my last confection or something like that.
And then she says, "Ack."
Yeah. Cathy. We love Cathy. Who doesn't love Cathy? And Cathy Acker is a special. She's a real like unique talent. There aren't that many people. I would say that there's nobody that writes like her. Maybe someone like William Burroughs is the closest.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. I'm excited for like this. I think I was saying to you when we recorded the last episode, I feel like this season has the potential to be my favorite season. There's so much in here that I'm excited about. Like I'm excited by challenge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between being excited by challenge and like facing down a book that I'm struggling to get through, and I'm just like I can't visualize any of this.
Like Giles Goatboy.
Yeah,
we might run into a Giles or two in this, but
okay.
I'm hoping that you're more amenable to them.
Well, our next book is not going to be a Giles Goatboy. It is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Once again, a upcoming Ryan Gosling film, directed by Lord and Miller and screenplay by Drew Goddard. So there's a lot of talent here, but again, like. I have the Gosling podcast. Like I'm gonna see these movies anyway. I like him as an actor.
That's still going?
I mean, he's not acting but yeah. I mean, when he does a new movie, we do an episode. Okay. We do like one episode a year or whatever. But yeah, this is a space book. And Egg was saying that she was excited for this because she loved The Martian and hated Artemis.
Okay, I didn't read Artemis. I also really like The Martian, and the reason that I like The Martian was because it's felt unique conflict-wise because there was no real villain, and it was sort of like a novel about like what we can do if we work together.
Yeah.
And like that kind of, and also it was like, you know, the story behind it is good. Like Andy Weir wrote it, like sort of crowdsourced the information through Reddit, like asking scientists about things. And yeah, I like him. I didn't read Artemis though. It's funny that the Eggster didn't like Artemis though.
She had a very specific and seemingly well-founded critique that I did not remember. I gave it I think I gave like 4 stars. Like I think I gave The Martian again. I don't.
Oh, you read Artemis and you liked it?
But I don't remember anything about it. But I remember loving The Martian, liking Artemis less. But she did not like that he was writing from the point of view of maybe like a black woman or something. And like there was a very specific like justifiable critique that Egg had that I'm like I don't remember any of that. But that sounds.
Yeah.
But she hated it so much that she would not have read Hail Mary if it wasn't for this. But she said this is going to be her tiebreaker. Is he a good author or is he not a good author? Something like that.
Yeah, sometimes you only have one book and that's fine.
Next up.
The Raw Shark Texts by Stephen Hall. The reason why it might be unadaptable is that it uses... there's a specific term for this that I don't remember what it is, but he uses the words in an illustrative way on the text, similar to how House of Leaves does.
Like physically in layout form.
Physically in layout, yeah. So the text layout is fascinating, and there's no real way to draw that same experience from watching something like that on film.
Do you think someone who's more visual, like a music video director, like a Joseph Kahn or like or just Daniels, who like I think visually more than like story, like someone who like is able to maybe, or like a movie like, you know, Detention or Bodied or Torque, where it's like this is just like a insane thing.
Bodied, like the rap movie?
Yeah, Joseph Kahn did that.
Okay.
That is like a 2-hour music video, basically, where everything is like, there's text on screen, there's visual.
I think you'd lose a lot, because a lot of what the book is doing is it's like the characters existing as text specifically.
Okay.
And so if you translated it into them existing as images, it's too analogous to them existing in real life.
Gotcha. Okay. That's fair.
And so like you have, it's very much that DeLillo postmodern idea of the word existing as a sign. And so like when people exist on text, they exist inside words, which are representative of a larger thing. So I think that's harder to translate to, photography.
Yeah. Cool. Next up is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner, who I don't know if this movie's going to come out this year. I know that she's adapting her novel into the screenplay herself. She's also the either lead or entire band in Japanese Breakfast, who's great. But Crying in H Mart seems to be like a very popular book and also a very, sought after film adaptation. Like this is probably gonna be the biggest, maybe in terms of like stature. I don't know if that's the right word or whatever, but
I don't know. You got Anne Hathaway and Eileen, and you've got the one coming up that's going to be pretty big because you have
Amy Adams.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be, in terms of like mainstream, I'm guessing this is going to be the biggest, but who knows? Have you read Crying in H Mart or no?
I think it'll be the fourth biggest.
Wow. Okay.
No, I think it'll be
it's going to be small.
I think it's going to be the least popular of all of them.
The Gosling movies, the Gosling's going to put it over.
Yeah, it's hard to argue for that over Lord and Miller directing Ryan Gosling in a science fiction epic.
It'll be bigger than Zone of Interest.
Yeah. Think about like how many like best of the century lists Under the Skin is on, right? Like that's a movie that like.
Oh, I'm not talking about whether people are going to like it or not. I'm talking about in terms of like, I get the sense that this is a hot property in terms of what Hollywood is looking for.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to see a Jonathan Glazer movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you read H Mart or no?
No, I own it though. I've owned it. I've owned it for forever, and I have been waiting for this moment.
For a moment like this, just like Kelly Clarkson. All right, what's number 10?
Number 10 is Wittgenstein's Mistress by David Markson.
Have you read this?
Once Upon a Time, yeah. This is a part of, I think it's a trilogy of novels that David Markson released that are all like utilize the same format, which would be hard to explain without spoiling things.
Then don't.
So yeah, we don't need to, but it's sort of books that exist in a kind of characterless space.
Ooh, okay.
Beyond that, it's kind of hard to explain.
Okay.
So yeah, moving on, we have
a book that I think you talked about maybe behind the paywall, possibly on a Patreon bonus episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Rachel Yoder's Night Bitch, coming out soon with Amy Adams in the lead.
Yeah.
There's also a chance that some of this gets juggled around a little bit if they're like, oh, Night Bitch comes out in June and these episodes will be out in August or whatever. So like there's a chance like I think we want it to come out before or around the time of.
Yeah, or if we can go do it, if we can go to the movie right after we.
Would be cool.
Yeah, that would be obviously the best thing for.
And you read this and you really like this book a lot.
Yeah, it's good. It's sort of presented as a kind of werewolf novel, but it's a lot more than that. Sort of about humans' animalistic urges and the way that humans are looked at as not being human anymore. Once they've completed certain things, they start looking as just a factory that's produced. Their body's just a factory producing things.
Interesting.
It's very good though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one is another biggie that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast.
The one that's going to get people to
cancel us,
put us on
Do Not Fly
lists of if a man has this book on his bookshelf and you come over, burn his house down. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, which is one of the great all-time novels that has ended up in hot water because of, I guess, some obnoxious fans of it and David Foster Wallace's personal history of maybe being slightly predatory or abusive.
And it's about tennis.
It's kind of about tennis.
What makes it unadaptable other than the fact that it's 1,100 pages long?
It has a lot of thematic stuff that is...
This I know I'm putting you in a really weird place where I don't want to be spoiled, and I don't want you to spoil it for the listener, but I also, as a baseline for like...
Well, so I'll say in a similar to Ignatius Riley kind of way, there's a lot of physical stuff in this that's grotesque that when you describe it on the page can seem otherworldly, and I think that putting it on screen would make it feel less otherworldly.
Do you think, to that point, these 6 books that you've said are unadaptable, society has deemed do not want on the screen, if they were animated?
No. Well, in some ways, Infinite Jest might be easier if it were animated. But I still think it's too large of a book. Okay. And it also, the way that it yanks you back and forth with endnotes and the sheer amount of like information that exists as text and not as narrative. Okay. Is sort of would make it very hard unless you somehow did a movie that had supplemental material.
Because you're also saying that there's like endnotes here that you have to like reference and whatever, right? Where it's, or footnotes or endnotes or whatever. Where
endnotes, yeah.
Because you were saying, because I was looking for an audiobook. You're like,
don't do the audiobook because you can't. The audiobook doesn't have endnotes, or if it does have endnotes, the endnotes are
at
like,
the end probably.
Yeah, like I don't know how it would work exactly. But yeah, it's not. And also, like, there's something interesting about like the flipping back and forth of the book, sort of mimicking the thematic tennis structure of a ball being smacked back and forth.
Am I going to be okay reading it on Kindle?
Yeah, well, I think that might make it easier because you just
tap
it and it bounces and then you tap back.
It's like virtual tennis.
And it'll be easier to carry around with you for sure.
And I won't have to embarrassingly be like, I'm not reading Jest. It's for a podcast.
Well, that's even worse. I'm reading this for a podcast. Oh, God. What have we become?
It's not a toxic space that we're building here.
Yeah. I'm going to make it more toxic in the future. That's my promise to you, the listener.
Before or after you die?
Oh, well, I'm going to haunt this motherfucker.
Honestly, if you die, can you haunt, please?
I don't believe in that bullshit.
This is going to, like, this episode comes out in like 7 weeks. If something happens between now and then, I'm going to forget that we talked about it this much on here. And don't die.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, just don't die in general. Like, try not to, but especially don't die until this episode's out.
All right, whatever.
This season will run from March 30th through September 7th.
Jesus Christ.
Baseball season, baby.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's not as long as the campus. It's not as long as the internet.
It'll probably get longer. Hopefully we'll be able to wrangle some of these authors for interviews, but who knows?
There are, I think, only 3 of the 12 on Twitter.
How many of them are still living? Do we have crimes for these off episodes?
I don't know, but we have the lottery pod. If you want to know what Tulsa thinks of Night Bitch before we get to Night Bitch in August, go to patreon.com/lotterypod or just wait a couple months and we'll be there. Keep reading.
Yeah, just wait a couple months.
What's the crime?
Today's crime is time traveling to 1968 and smoking Cuban cigars.
I am a cinematographer. I am a cinematographer. Oh, I am a cinematographer. Oh, I am a cinematographer. And I walked away from New York City. And I walked away from everything that's good.